Hey there, everyone. My name is Anil. This is going to be a really quick, sort of high level overview on how to get started programming. I get asked this a lot. Coding is a really cool thing. More and more people want to learn, which is great. It's a great skill to have, but there's just so many resources out there, so many places to get started, which can be a good and bad thing. So I'm just going to add one more resource to that. I'm going to be using a language called C, and C is sort of one of the first modern day languages that was created. It's a bit complicated. It's Some people kind of think of it as overkill when it comes to first learning a language, which it may be. But on the flip side of that, once you learn C, I personally think you can pick up any other language. And when you do learn C in great detail, you really learn what's sort of happening under the hood, right? You kind of understand the point of view from the computer, which is great. I think a lot of the higher level languages, you don't really get that same sort of insight. So, and I'll be happy to talk about this in more depth as well, either in future videos or just in the comment section below. So anyways, let's get started. A few things we need to do. So I'm running a Mac here. If you do have a Mac, great. If you don't, you can actually download various programs, kind of simulate what I'm doing. Again, leave me a comment. I'll be happy to kind of go over that for you. But what we need to do is first we open up Terminal. To do that, if you're unsure, you just go to your Finder and type in Terminal, press Enter. Secondly, make sure that you are in whatever directory you're going to be saving your files in. Just some basic Linux commands. Again, you can Google these or ask me, and I'll be happy to kind of provide that info in the comments. PWD is just print working directory, so we're currently in the test folder. So I want to make sure that whatever programs I write here, I do save them in this same test folder. Lastly, C is a language that needs to be compiled. And what I mean by that is, we're writing things in English, right, in human readable format. The computer can't recognize that. So there's a program called the compiler that actually takes a rewrite, the code, and translates that into a more readable language that a computer can process. So the C compiler that I'm going to be using is called GCC. And to make sure you have it installed on your system, you can just type in which GCC. And here you can see that it is installed under our user bin directory. If you don't have it, you will need it in order to actually test your code. So you can download it. Again, if you have any particular questions about that, feel free to drop me a line. And that's it. So let's get started. One of the first things we're going to do here is include a file, standardio.h. Include a file called standardio.h. Now what is this doing? So previous developers have created files, they're called header files, that basically have predefined functions in them that are more widely used and that just made sense to sort of create these that are very easily accessible for other future programmers like you and I to use. And I'll go over exactly what I'm using from this file, but the point is include this header file. It's got a bunch of good utilities, very commonly used utilities and functions that you'll likely use within your code. The next step is every C program starts with the main function. So the main function is sort of your primary entry point into your program. And the way we define it is simply int, which is short for integer, and that's basically the return type of the function. And I'll kind of go over this stuff in more detail later on. But for now, just int main and then open and close parentheses. In later videos, you'll see us sort of add stuff within these parentheses, particularly as we define other functions. For the purpose of this video, we're just going to have one function, the main function, with no command line parameters. And then the main point of this file, the main point of this program, we're actually creating a program called Hello World. That's sort of just the conventional first program that all beginners use. All it does is prints hello world to the screen, nothing spectacular, nothing too fancy, no real world applications. But it's just sort of the first step that you take to really kind of, start programming and get your feet wet. So to do that, we're going to use a function called printf. And this printf function is actually defined within this standardio.h header file. So if you don't include this, your program will error, spit out an error when you try and call this printf function. So make sure you do have this standardio.header file included at the top of your program. So printf, and then whatever you want to print, we're just going to be printing. Printf is short for print file. In this case, we're just printing out to our screen, our console. Printf, hello world, in quotes, \n to just go to the next line. End quote, in parentheses, semicolon. You need a semicolon. Most C statements you write do require a semicolon at the end to signal that that's it, that's the end of my command there. Most, not all. And like I mentioned, this function has a return type of int, which means that it's actually expecting us to return an integer value. In this case, we're not actually doing any sort of computational processing, so we're just going to go ahead and return 0. Basically return nothing. We're just exiting the function here. We'll save that. We will call it hello world.c. Save it. Now we come over to our terminal here. Let's clear the screen. Now to actually compile this, we call gcc-o to create an object file. And then we want to type in the name of the program without the extension. And then again, the name of the program with the extension. It's compiling. All right, all good. We have no errors. It's compiled. It's ready to run. So to run it, we just do a /hello world. And there we go. It says hello world. Cool, success, we're done. Again, I know nothing too crazy, but that's sort of the first program where you're actually telling the computer to do something. Now, just for argument's sake here, if we had forgotten to type the semicolon, your compiler will spit out an error, which you'll see many, many times. So I just kind of wanted to go over that right off the bat in case while you're doing your own first program, you do run into this, and I don't want you freaking out. So let's save it. Compile it again. Here I'm just pressing the up arrow key to kind of go back to the previous commands. And as expected, the compiler is not too happy, right? It's saying that it's missing. And the compiler is pretty good at telling us exactly what we're missing. It won't always be so obvious as you kind of go deeper and deeper into this, but in this case it is. It's pretty clear. So when you're debugging, this is pretty helpful, right? It's telling us that it's missing a semicolon. It even tells us exactly where, right after the printf line on line 5. So, pretty intuitive, right? Let's add that semicolon in there, save it again. We'll compile it once more. All good again. Run it. Hello world. There we go. Okay, that's it for the first video. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, let me know. Drop me a line. If you have topics that you're kind of interested in for future videos, again, let me know. That's all. My name's Anil. Have a good one.